Welcome to this Urgent Explainer. Look, today we're cutting right through the noise to look directly at the rapidly escalating, very dramatic geopolitical crisis unfolding right now in the Middle East. If you've been watching the news, you already know things are incredibly tense. But the reality on the water is shifting in ways that could fundamentally alter the entire global economy. We're going to break down exactly what is happening day by day and show you why this matters so much. All right, let's dive right in. To understand the sheer scale of what's happening, you really have to look at the massive shift in strategy that just occurred. 3 months ago, the headline was that Iran closed the world's most critical waterway, right? It was a physical blockade. But today, Iran has taken an even more dangerous, sophisticated step. They aren't just blocking the Strait of Hormuz anymore. They are moving to legally and systematically control every single oil tanker and cargo ship passing through it. They're transitioning from a physical blockade to a bureaucratic stronghold. Section 1. Iran's new Hormuz power. So, on May 5th, 2026, the geopolitical landscape quietly shifted. Iran established what they're calling the Islamic Republic Maritime Authority. This brand new legal body has one extraordinary mandate: to issue mandatory permits and regulate all maritime traffic right through the Strait of Hormuz. In plain English, they've essentially set themselves up as the ultimate gatekeeper to the world's oil supply. It is no longer a free transit zone. In their eyes, it's Iranian-regulated territory. Every cargo vessel literally has to ask the Iranian Navy for permission. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer scale of the power grab. Think about it. Every massive oil-producing nation in the region, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Iraq, Kuwait, they must all now submit to this new legal framework. They have to ask Iran for proper permit documents just to move their own sovereign oil out to the global market. It's a profound shift. Iran is effectively saying, we don't just sit next to this waterway, we own it.
Section 2. The U.S. strikes back.
As you might expect, the United States absolutely did not sit by quietly while a new global toll booth was erected. Looking at this timeline, we can see an immediate, dual-pronged escalation. Just weeks after Iran established their permit control on May 5th, the U.S. retaliated heavily on May 27th. And they didn't just use diplomacy, they hit back with a heavy combination of economic sanctions and kinetic military strikes. On the economic front, Washington completely rejected this new Iranian legal body. They officially sanctioned it, outright branding the entire permit system as illegal. They declared it a blatant violation of international maritime law and categorized it as a direct act of economic aggression. So the U.S. is making it abundantly clear there is no way they are going to recognize Iranian stamps on international shipping manifests. But, the response wasn't just limited to paper and financial systems. On that exact same day, May 27th, U.S. warships launched kinetic strikes right inside Iranian territory. They specifically targeted sites that posed direct threats to commercial shipping and U.S. forces. And this really cemented a grim reality. The earlier ceasefire negotiated back in April, it is completely gone. We are witnessing active mutual attacks from both sides. Section 3. The global oil threat. So, why is a bureaucratic permit system in the Middle East putting the entire globe on edge? Well, what's really interesting about this slide is how it visualizes the hostage situation. 20% of the world's total oil supply relies entirely on passing through one single narrow geographical choke point. 1/5 of the energy that powers our factories and cars has to pass through waters Iran is now claiming absolute authority over. To put that into perspective, we're talking about 21 million barrels of oil every single day. If Iran successfully enforces this permit system, they hold the power to pick and choose. They can decide which countries get energy and which countries just go dark. It is an immense lever of geopolitical power. Which brings us to the most pressing question on the board. What about America's allies? See, China is Iran's biggest customer, so they'll probably get these permits approved without a second thought. But if you're a pro-American nation heavily reliant on Middle Eastern oil like Japan, South Korea, or India, what happens when Iran simply refuses to stamp your permit? It's literally a masterclass in economic warfare, executed without firing a single missile. Section 4. A broken ceasefire. This high-stakes economic conflict brings us to the political limbo, keeping the entire region burning. It's important to remember how this started versus where we are right now. Donald Trump initially promised this war would be incredibly brief, confidently stating it would end in 6 weeks maximum. Yet, here we are, exactly 3 months into this conflict. that original timeline has completely shattered. We're looking at a torn ceasefire document, confirmed Iranian strikes on a U.S. base in Kuwait, and corresponding U.S. strikes near Hormuz. The situation has deeply entrenched itself into a very complex war of attrition. And honestly, the most frustrating part for diplomats is how close a resolution actually came. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said they could literally see the finish line. CNN even confirmed that negotiators actually shook hands on an outline back on May 28th. The terms were drafted, but the document just sits there, unsigned. Trump has withheld his signature because, well, signing requires compromise, and that's incredibly risky in this high-stakes political environment.
Section 5. 3 things to watch.
To wrap up this explainer, let's establish the clear framework you need to navigate the news over the coming days. These are the 3 pivotal, unresolved variables dictating the future. Number 1, the deal. Will the U.S. ultimately sign the drafted agreement? Number 2, the permits. Will the global community just quietly comply with Iran's new maritime authority to keep the oil flowing? And number 3, the successor. Who actually takes over control of Iran following reports of severe injuries to Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei? So, with Iran now claiming control of the world's most vital oil route, American warships launching retaliatory strikes, and the entire region teetering on the edge of a much deeper war, we leave you with the ultimate question. The deal is on the table. The negotiators have literally shaken hands. Will Donald Trump sign this deal? Keep your eyes on these variables, and thanks for joining me for this explainer.